Good afternoon. This is All India Radio. I'm Maria Albina Michael, and with me is Saira Mujtaba with the Midday News. The headlines. Civil Aviation Ministry removes restrictions on operations of flights between India and Ukraine under air bubble arrangement. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman participates in the first G20 Finance Ministers and Central Bank Governors meeting under G20 Presidency of Indonesia. Supreme Court sets aside the High Court order staying 75% quota in private sector jobs for Haryana residents. Income Tax Department conducts searches at the residence of former head of National Stock Exchange Chitra Ramakrishna in Mumbai. Campaigning reaching a peak on the penultimate day of electioneering for the third phase assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh and single-phase polls in Punjab. Today is the last day for filing of nominations for the seventh phase of assembly polls in Uttar Pradesh. Haryana lifts all COVID-related restrictions in the state. Delhi University reopens for all undergraduate and postgraduate courses from today. Over 174 crore 24 lakh COVID vaccine doses administered in the country so far. Recovery rate stands at 98.03%. United States accuses China of not keeping promises it made to open its market to foreign competition. India warns about the developments in Afghanistan which have wider ramifications in the Central Asian region. And in cricket, second T20 international between India and West Indies to be played tomorrow at the Eden Gardens in Kolkata. With the new Omicron variant of coronavirus causing concern, we appeal to our listeners to be vigilant and to get fully vaccinated and help others, including children between 15 and 18 years, to get vaccinated. Please continue to follow these 3 simple steps to stay safe. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-239-78046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Civil Aviation Ministry has removed the restrictions on operation of number of flights between India and Ukraine under air bubble arrangement. The ministry has said any number of flights as well as charter flights can operate between both the countries. It said Indian Airlines have been informed to increase the number of flights as the demand has witnessed a rise. Civil Aviation Ministry is facilitating in coordination with Ministry of External Affairs. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman today participated in the first G20 Finance Ministers and Central Bank Governors meeting under G20 Presidency of Indonesia. The minister will virtually join sessions during the 2-day meeting to discuss current global economic issues and G20 priorities for 2022. The 17th G20 Heads of State and Government Summit will take place in November this year in Bali, Indonesia. In the first session, Finance Minister talked about the global economic outlook and risks, including inflation, supply disruptions, and new variants of the coronavirus. She called for expeditious and equitable distribution of COVID vaccines to aid recovery.
The Income Tax Department is conducting searches at the residence of former National Stock Exchange MD and CEO Chitra Ramakrishna pertaining to charges of tax evasion and financial irregularities against her and others. Sources said the searches started this morning at Chitra's residence in Chembur in Mumbai. The IT officials also conducted searches at Chitra's mother's residence. Chitra drew flag after she said she consulted a spiritual guru dwelling in the Himalayas for her professional matters when she was the CEO of NSA. Recently, she was penalized by the SEBI for passing sensitive information to an outsider. The Supreme Court has set aside the High Court order staying the 75% quota in private sector jobs for Haryana residents. The Punjab and Haryana High Court on 3rd of February had granted an interim stay on Haryana government's law providing 75% reservation in private sector jobs for residents of the state. A bench of Justices L. Nageshwara Rao and Pamiti Ghantam Sri Narasimha also directed the Haryana government today not to take coercive action against the employers. The court said it did not intend to deal with the merits of the matter as it proposes to request the High Court to decide expeditiously and not later than 4 weeks. The court also directed parties not to seek adjournment and be present before the court for fixing the schedule for hearing.
More than 174 crore 24 lakh COVID vaccine doses have been administered in the country so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. Health Ministry said more than 34 lakh 75,000 doses were administered in the last 24 hours. The ministry said a total of 30,757 new cases were reported in the last 24 hours. India's active caseload currently stands at 3,32,918 and it is at 0.78%. The recovery rate is currently at 98.03%. The Haryana government has lifted all COVID-related restrictions in the state. In the order issued by Chief Secretary cum Chairperson of the State Executive Committee of Haryana State Disaster Management Authority, HSDMA, Sanjeev Kaushal, the residents of the state are now advised to strictly follow COVID-appropriate behavioral norms, including social distancing and wearing of masks.
The Kerala government has withdrawn work-from-home system for special categories of employees in government and private institutions as COVID-19 transmission declines. An order issued yesterday directed employers to end work-from-home facility granted to pregnant women and those with serious ailments with immediate effect. Meanwhile, Kerala yesterday logged 11,776 fresh COVID-19 cases as 21,906 people recovered from the infection. Test positivity rate dropped to 15.75%. The state's active cases have dipped to 1,13,798. Delhi University has reopened for all the undergraduate and postgraduate courses from today. Its colleges and institutions resumed offline classes after 2 years. The university was closed in March 2020 in view of the COVID-19 pandemic. Talking to AIR News, Delhi University Proctor Rajni Abbi said, all preparations have been done to reopen the university. She added that the colleges and institutions have been asked to follow COVID-19 protocols as far as possible.
If you come to the university today, you will see the normal university running. All the colleges and all the institutions have been given instructions and guidelines, follow COVID protocols as far as possible so that students sanitize their hands, they wear the mask. As far as possible, social distancing can be maintained. And if possible, the classes can be staggered also over a period of time so that we can avoid too much clustering in the class.
The proctor informed that the classes for the first-year students in some colleges may run in hybrid mode for the time being till the timetable and other arrangements are made, while second and third-year classes will take place in offline format.
For the time being, till the time adjustments are made in timetable, etc., classes for first year may run. It's 4-5 days or a week, something like that. They may run in hybrid mode, but it's only for the first year. Second years and third years will have their offline class.
Abhijit, a student of DU, is euphoric to attend the offline classes.
Hi, I'm Abhijit. This is my first year in college and I'm pursuing BSc in Electioneering. I'm truly excited. Today is my first day in college. The day I've been waiting for years. For the last couple of months, I have been attending online classes. Even before that, when I was in school, I spent almost 1.5 years in online classes. So basically, this is my first offline class after a long time. Finally, I'm meeting my batchmates now in real life and I am eager to share our thoughts and have some fun together. I'm just looking forward to it.
Another student shares her experience of attending classes physically.
बहुत एक्साइटेड हम लोग पढ़ाई अच्छे से हो पाई ऑफलाइन में और फिर हम लोग मजा भी कर पाएंगे कैंपस को फील करेंगे और हमने जो डीयू में ये एडमिशन लेते हैं कि मजा आएगा कैंपस बहुत अच्छा है तो वो सब एक्सपीरियंस करेंगे.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will dedicate to the nation 2 additional railway lines connecting Thane and Diva tomorrow via video conferencing. He will also flag off 2 suburban trains of the Mumbai Suburban Railway, followed by his address on the occasion. The 2 additional railway lines connecting Thane and Diva have been built at an approximate cost of 620 crore rupees. It features 1.4 kilometer long rail flyover, 3 major bridges and 21 minor bridges. These lines will significantly remove the interference of long-distance trains traffic with suburban trains traffic in Mumbai. These lines will also enable the introduction of 36 new suburban trains in the city. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla today expressed concern over continuous disruption of proceedings and lack of decorum in Parliament and state legislatures. Addressing the inaugural session of Orientation and Enlightenment Program for members of Bihar legislators at Central Hall of Bihar Assembly, Mr. Birla said houses must be centre of fruitful debate and dialogue for welfare of people. He said discipline and modesty should be the jewel of members of both the houses. The Speaker emphasized an extensive debate on the process of making law, programs and policies in the temples of democracy.
जब आजादी का 75 वर्ष का अमृत महोत्सव मना रहे हैं तो हमारे लिए बहुत चिंता का विषय भी है कि देश में जिस तरीके से चाहे राज्य के विधानमंडल हो चाहे केंद्र के विधानमंडल हो, जिस तरीके से सदन में गरिमा गिरती जा रही है। हमने पिछली बार शिमला के अंदर इस बात की भी चर्चा की थी कि हम किस तरीके से विधानमंडलों को गिरती गरिमा और शालीनता को कम करने का प्रयास करें और इसके लिए आवश्यक होनी चाहिए कि हम इन विधानमंडलों के अंदर चर्चा करें, संवाद करें, विचार विमर्श करें, सामूहिकता के साथ निर्णय करें। लेकिन हम सबके लिए चिंता का विषय है कि लगातार सदनों में चर्चा कम हो रही है, संवाद कम हो रहा है, कानून बनाते समय व्यापक चर्चा संवाद नहीं हो रही और सदन में गरिमा कम होती जा रही है। हमारी अनुशासन और शालीनता हमारा आभूषण होना चाहिए और इस सबकी जिम्मेदारी हम सबकी है।
Earlier, the Speaker also launched digital TV of Bihar Legislative Assembly and a magazine of the lower house of the state legislature.
In Uttar Pradesh, 13 people, including 11 women and 2 children, died in a tragic accident in Kushinagar district yesterday evening. The accident happened in Nebua Narangia village, where women and children in large numbers were participating in a marriage ceremony. They were sitting on a cement slab which was used to cover an old well. The slab broke all of a sudden and they all fell into the well. DM S. Rajalingam told media persons that debris of the slab fell over the women and children into the well. The police reached at the spot and rescue operation continued till late night. The injured have been admitted to the hospital and 2 children are in a serious condition. President Ramnath Kovind, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi have expressed sadness over the loss of lives in the tragic incident in Kushinagar, Uttar Pradesh. You are listening to the Midday News on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Civil Aviation Ministry removes restrictions on operations of flights between India and Ukraine under air bubble arrangement. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman participates in the first G20 Finance Ministers and Central Bank Governors meeting under G20 Presidency of Indonesia. Supreme Court sets aside the High Court order staying 75% quota in private sector jobs for Haryana residents. Income Tax Department conducts searches at the residence of former head of National Stock Exchange, Chitra Ramakrishna in Mumbai. Campaigning reaching a peak on the penultimate day of electioneering for the third phase of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh and single-phase polls in Punjab. Today is the last day for filing of nominations for the 7th phase of assembly polls in Uttar Pradesh. Haryana lifts all COVID-related restrictions in the state. Delhi University reopens for all undergraduate and postgraduate courses from today. Over 174 crore 24 lakh COVID vaccine doses administered in the country so far. Recovery rate stands at 98.03%. United States accuses China of not keeping promises it made to open its markets to foreign competition. India warns about the developments in Afghanistan which have wider ramifications in the Central Asian region. And in cricket, second T20 international between India and West Indies to be played tomorrow at the Eden Gardens in Kolkata. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो खुद से वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
India and the United Arab Emirates UAE will firm up a comprehensive economic partnership agreement (CEPA) tomorrow during a virtual summit between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Making an announcement on the summit, the Ministry of External Affairs MEA said the negotiations for CEPA were launched in September 2021 and have been completed. The MEA added the agreement will take India-UAE economic and commercial engagement to the next level, which is likely to include areas like trade, investment, goods and services. The ministry added that both leaders are expected to lay out their vision of the historic and friendly bilateral ties at a time when India is celebrating 75 years of its independence and the UAE marking the 50th anniversary of its foundation. The MEA further said the UAE is India's third largest trade partner and bilateral trade and investment ties are expected to see significant enhancements. In poll-bound Uttar Pradesh, electoral campaign is reaching a peak on the penultimate day of electioneering for the third phase assembly elections along with the single-phase polls in Punjab today. After completion of the first two phases, polling in Uttar Pradesh and single-phase polling in Goa and Uttarakhand, all political parties shifted their focus to the next phases of elections. Political parties have now intensified their poll campaign for the subsequent phases in UP and two-phase polling in Manipur. The star campaigners and prominent leaders of various political parties are engaged in public rallies. The door-to-door canvassing and virtual appeals to the voters also continue. The poll campaign has also picked up in Manipur, with the party leaders trying to reach out and woo the voters in different parts of the state. The third phase of polling in Uttar Pradesh will be concluded on Sunday in 59 assembly constituencies from 16 districts. The electoral contests in the third phase of assembly elections in the state are mostly multi-cornered fixtures. During the single-phase polling in Punjab, total 1,304 candidates are in fray for 117 seats after the withdrawal of candidature. The filing of nominations for the seventh and last phase of assembly polls in Uttar Pradesh is going to close today. In all, 440 nominations were filed till last evening. The scrutiny of nominations will be undertaken tomorrow. The last date for withdrawal of candidature will be 21st of February. The seventh phase of polling in Uttar Pradesh will be conducted on the 7th of next month in 54 assembly constituencies from 9 districts.
Prime Minister and senior BJP leader Narendra Modi today addressed an election rally at Fazilka in Punjab. Addressing the rally, Mr. Modi said that Punjab needs a government with a new vision and a new thinking. He said only BJP and its alliance partners can take Punjab to the path of development and get it rid from drug mafia and sand mafia. Talking about farmers, Mr. Modi said agriculture can bring in prosperity and Congress did nothing for the farmers. The fertility of the land in Punjab is depleting and Congress did nothing about it, and the Congress always ditched the farmers of the state. It did not even implement the Swaminathan report, and only the NDA government implemented the provisions of the report. He said that record procurement was made by the centre and payments were made directly into the accounts of the farmers. He said that state needs government which could work for the welfare of the farmers. Mr. Modi said his government started Jal Jeevan Mission to provide safe drinking water to every household of Punjab. Aam Aadmi Party AAP Punjab convener Bhagwant Mann addressed an election rally at Morinda yesterday. Addressing the rally, Bhagwant Mann said that the people of Punjab have a chance to change the destiny of their children and Punjab. He called upon the people to vote for Aam Aadmi Party to improve the fields of education, health, to end mafia and corruption, and to provide employment to the youth and debt relief to the farmers.
In Tamil Nadu, electioneering for the urban local body polls will end by this evening. Polling will be held in single phase on the 19th of this month in 21 corporations, 138 municipalities and 490 town panchayats. 57,778 candidates are in the fray for 12,607 posts across the state. After the assembly election last year and after a break of 10 years of the local body elections, now voters will be exercising their franchise one more time this Saturday. A report.
All the party leaders are crisscrossing the state in full vigor as curtains are closing down. The alliance have stayed intact for the DMK front with Congress left parties, MDMK, VCK and other smaller alliance partners. The alliance between AIA-DMK and the BJP has been split. BJP, which has 4 MLAs in the state assembly, has fielded locally powerful candidates in the fray. Though COVID has thrown a challenge, canvassing through public meetings, door-to-door canvassing are also held. Campaigning through social media messages have come in handy and easy. Micro-observers have been appointed to monitor the violation of model code of conduct and bribing of voters. CCTV cameras have been fitted in sensitive booths and also in the security rooms where EVMs are kept. Polling officials have been given training to handle the formalities before and after keeping the EVMs in the booths. Security has been strengthened in view of the election across the state to prevent untoward incidents. Counting of votes will be held on the 22nd of this month. Joy, AIR News, Chennai.
And now let's listen to our special program, Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव।
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. Birth of a Nation. India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of the struggle every day.
On 17 February 1931, Mahatma Gandhi met the British Viceroy, Lord Irwin, at the Viceroy's house. Gandhiji declined to have a cup of tea and told the Viceroy that he would rather prefer a glass of lemon water. Having just been jailed for the Dandi March and the salt satyagraha, he said to have carried his own salt in a packet and used it to mix in the lemon water.
Images of the modestly clad Gandhi at the grand new Viceroy House rankled several important people in London. Winston Churchill said,
"It is alarming and also nauseating to see Mr. Gandhi, an inner temple lawyer, now become a seditious fakir of a type well known in the East, striding half-naked up the steps of the Viceregal Palace while he is still organizing and conducting a defiant campaign of civil disobedience to parley on equal terms with the representative of the King Emperor."
Gandhiji and the Viceroy Irwin met 8 times until the 5th of March 1931, leading ultimately to the Gandhi-Irwin Pact.
We also remember Naga spiritual and freedom fighter Rani Gaidinliu, who died on the 17th of February 1993. Gaidinliu, who belonged to the Rongmei tribe, led an armed uprising against the British in Manipur, Nagaland and Assam.
Rani Gaidinliu was born on the 26th of January 1915 in present-day Tamenglong district of Manipur. In 1927, at the age of 13, Gaidinliu, along with her cousin Haipu Jadullang, joined the Heraka movement, which aimed at a revival of the Naga tribal religion and to establish self-rule of the Nagas, ending the British rule. At the mere age of 16 years, she was arrested in 1932 by the British and sentenced to life imprisonment. Between 1932 and 1947, the Naga freedom fighter was kept at several prisons.
After being released in 1947, she continued to work for the betterment of the community. Jawaharlal Nehru described Gaidinliu as the daughter of the hills and gave her the title of Rani for her courage. She was also awarded a Padma Bhushan. We salute the great freedom fighter.
We also remember freedom fighter and social worker Perin Ben Captain, who was the granddaughter of renowned Indian intellectual and leader Dadabhai Naoroji.
Perin Ben was born on the 12th of October 1888 in Kutch district. She studied at the University of Paris. While in Paris, she came in contact with Bhikaji Cama and started participating in nationalistic activities. She came to India in 1911 and later met Mahatma Gandhi and was influenced by his ideals. In 1919, she started working with Mahatma, and in 1920, she joined the Swadeshi movement and started wearing khadi. In 1921, she assisted in establishing the Rashtriya Stri Sabha, a women's movement based on Gandhian ideals.
Perin served in a number of councils of the Indian National Congress and was the first woman president of the Bombay Provincial Congress Committee in 1930. She was imprisoned for her participation in the civil disobedience movement. When Gandhi Seva Sena was reconstituted in the 1930s, she was made its honorary General Secretary, a post she held till her death in 1958. We salute the great freedom fighters.
We also remember freedom fighter Chand Mian, who hailed from Tripura. On 17th of February 1932, around 15,000 farmers gathered to celebrate the Farmers' Day in defiance of the British orders. Sensing disturbances, the police opened fire to disperse them, and Chand Mian was killed. We salute the great martyr. That brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
Best wishes to all consumers for Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Hallmark ensures purity of gold. Always purchase hallmarked gold jewellery. For any consumer-related complaints, please contact National Consumer Helpline's toll-free number 14404. Issued in public interest by Department of Consumer Affairs, Government of India, Jago Grahak Jago.
Noted singer and composer Bapi Lahiri was cremated today in Mumbai. His son Bappa Lahiri performed the last rites. Bapi Lahiri passed away in Mumbai on Tuesday at a private hospital. A report from our Mumbai correspondent.
Bappida's last rites were performed by his son Bappa Lahiri at Vilepale's cremation ground. Several Bollywood dignitaries were present at the funeral. Shri Bappi Lahiri passed away on Tuesday night at a private hospital in Juhu. Bappi Lahiri, fondly addressed as Bappi Da, will always be remembered for introducing India to disco music. As a musician, he gave such songs to Bollywood which will always be remembered by the people. Chalte Chalte Mere Geet Yaad Rakhna, Pag Ghungru Band, Yaad Aa Raha Hai, Yaar Bina Chain Kahare, along with many other songs, will keep Bappi Da fresh in our memories forever. Devopriya Bhattacharjee, AIR News, Mumbai.
India has warned about the developments in Afghanistan which have wider ramifications in the Central Asian region. India's permanent representative to the UN, T.S. Tirumurthy, drew the UN Security Council's attention towards the threat of possible growth in international terrorism and drug trafficking following the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan. Mr. Tirumurthy stressed that the international community needs to take cognizance of the concerns which the Central Asian countries have on developments in Afghanistan. He added they have an important role in the settlement of disputes, especially in conflict situations.
The United States has said that China is not keeping the promises it made to open its markets to foreign competition when it joined the World Trade Organization WTO in 2001. The Office of the U.S. Trade Representative accused China of failing to meet its commitments to the World Trade Organization and said it is exploring new ways to combat aggressive Chinese trade practices causing serious harm to workers and businesses around the world. It published its annual report on Chinese compliance with WTO rules yesterday, the first such assessment under President Joe Biden's administration. China said it is a firm supporter of and important contributor to the WTO.
In cricket, India defeated the West Indies by 6 wickets in the first T20 International of the 3-match series at the Eden Gardens in Kolkata last night. With this win, India has gained a 1-0 lead in the series. The second T20 International will be played tomorrow at the same venue.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Civil Aviation Ministry removes restrictions on operations of flights between India and Ukraine under air bubble arrangement. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman participates in the first G20 Finance Ministers and Central Bank Governors meeting under G20 Presidency of Indonesia. Supreme Court sets aside the High Court order staying 75% quota in private sector jobs for Haryana residents. Income Tax Department conducts searches at the residence of former head of National Stock Exchange Chitra Ramakrishna in Mumbai. Campaigning reaching peak on the penultimate day of electioneering for the third phase assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh and single-phase polls in Punjab. Today is the last day for filing of nominations for the seventh phase of assembly polls in Uttar Pradesh. Haryana lifts all COVID-related restrictions in the state. Delhi University reopens for all undergraduate and postgraduate courses from today. Over 174 crore, 24 lakh COVID vaccine doses administered in the country so far. Recovery rate stands at 98.03%. United States accuses China of not keeping promises it made to open its markets to foreign competition. And with that, we end the midday news.